Yeah, we're doing this.
Here we are, Wind and Read podcast, episode 1. And,
Is this like the alpha, the beta, or are we actually doing like episode 1?
what do you think?
I don't know. I think we just go with it.
Let's just go with it. Episode 1. We're Wind and Read. And we started a vintage saxophone company, didn't we?
Yeah. How long's it been now?
Since we officially started, I think we did it in the summer. So, 8 months?
Yeah, probably 8 months.
But basically, I moved in next to David. And I was giving Jacob lessons. Is that how it started?
Well, so I think it was a fortuitous moment where my son Jacob started playing baritone saxophone. I think he's been playing for maybe 6 months, maybe a year. And then we were walking home or whatever, and we heard you playing through your like soundproofing everything. And he came out, he was just like sitting on our front steps listening to you play from across the street. I think that's how we put 2 and 2 together. And then I think you started giving Jacob lessons.
I love that.
Yeah.
What are the chances?
Yeah,
and then you were shopping for a vintage saxophone, or a saxophone in general, for Jacob.
Yeah.
A new...
Well, so I think
Very.
that's the problem with with school systems, is that he had started playing baritone saxophone on a school borrowed instrument. Mm-hmm. But he was graduating from 8th grade to 9th grade, and the high school did not have one for him to use. So we're like suddenly like, oh, he's really into it. He's been playing for a year, 2 years at this point, and then we're like, oh, we now like have to find him one if he's going to continue. And then seeing the prices of a brand new baritone saxophone, I was like, I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
You know, like looking at the prices, looking at what's out there. Is this a good model? Is this a good model? Is this crap? And then if I'm buying used, I don't even know, like, I didn't know what a low A versus a B flat baritone was. Yeah. So I think that I reached out to you and I was like, okay, should I get this one or should I get this one? Is this a good price? Is this not a good price? Like, what should I be doing?
Yep.
And I was like this close to buying some cheap imported, made in China from Musician's Friend or one of those. Mm-hmm. And then I happened to find a Yanagisawa from the 1970s on Facebook Marketplace or eBay.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be like the perfect buy.
Sweet horn.
For like half the price of what a new one was going to be. I was like, oh, wait, there's something interesting here.
Yep.
And then it kind of took us down this rabbit hole of, oh, you want a tenor also? Maybe I can find you a cheap tenor that we get cleaned up, and now you have a baritone and a tenor. Mm-hmm. And then, oh boy, now we're really down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Now we have a company.
Now we have a company.
Like 30-something horns.
Right. But it's like, yeah, and that's what got me thinking of all of this. Like, why am I buying some cheap thing versus a really awesome vintage thing?
Yeah.
You know, that's the weird thing about saxophones.
Yeah.
And also weird thing, I was thinking of it this morning, like, it's not that way with any other instrument. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. There's no changes in a trumpet. No. I mean, there are. I mean, there's small changes, but
small changes.
Not nearly as huge a change as like decade to decade in a saxophone.
Exactly. I mean, there's just so many mechanics happening on a sax.
Yeah.
And so many patents have been made to improve the design over the years. And yeah, you're totally right. I've never actually thought about that. The trumpet really has kind of stayed the trumpet.
I mean, I played the tuba. I mean, nobody's changed the tuba.
Yeah.
Like, you've got your 3 valves and maybe a 4th valve.
Yep.
Like, you don't really see any changes from the original sousaphone line to the current sousaphone line.
Right.
But a saxophone from like 20 years ago can be incredibly different. And then whether you're a con person or a Buescher person, and there's like mechanical differences and all
Right.
kinds of things between manufacturers. And you're like, oh, this is really, there's something
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I've been selling and buying horns since I've been playing, basically, since I have been able to sell and buy anything, since I was 18, basically. And
Oh no, you have to tell the story of like I'm gonna throw you under the bus, but your first flip. Tell the first time you flipped a saxophone is a
yes.
great story.
Yes. So my first flip was I traded my reference 54 tenor. That story, right? For the baritone.
The one that your parents bought you.
Yeah, yeah. So my parents bought me this $4,500 brand new. And back in the day, that's how much it was. Now it's like, I checked out how much they go for now. They're like 7.5, 8 for a new reference 54 tenor. And my parents got it for like 45 or 42 at Rayburn Music. Back in the day, Emilio Lyons in Boston. And I loved the horn. I was playing on it. It was my college horn. I went to UMass Amherst for a year. Then I moved to New York. And my first year in New York, or second year in New York, I had been given Sonny Stitt's tenor sax. So I obviously was going to play that one instead of the one my parents got me, because it's way more legendary, and I liked it more. So I had these two tenors, and I probably should have kept the backup, but my buddy had this vintage Martin Committee 3 Bari, and I traded him my reference 54 for that. And then I played on that for a while, sold it, for about the same price that my parents paid for the reference 54. I was like, I have to at least get what they paid. And then I bought a vintage Haynes flute and a clarinet with that money. So I turned it from a Bari to two really cool vintage instruments, which I still have. One of them's a 1954 handmade, pure sterling silver Haynes flute. I actually saw one for sale at the Black Door in Northampton.
Really?
Yeah, the same model and everything. Selling it for $5,000 up there. Very cool flute. But anyway, so that was my first flip. Is that the one you were thinking of?
That is, but I
Yeah.
thought it was funny how like you're like, oh, I got this from my parents. I have to flip it for at least what they got it
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
And then like, I can see my kids doing the same,
Yeah.
which is why it just makes me laugh.
And justifying
I'm like,
it that way.
Like, well, I have this already, so let me see if I can work it to my advantage.
Yes.
And Jacob was already doing that because he flipped it through us, but he flipped his was it the Martin? No. Yeah, the Martin tenor.
Yep.
For what was the French one?
Oh, the Dine Action.
Yeah, the Dynaction tenor.
Yeah.
That the moment he saw it with its like steampunk, there's no lacquer left, but he's like, I love this horn.
That was a good
"Oh,
flip.
boy."
He was smart on that one. It was a good flip.
But yeah, I'm wondering, like, is that something like every saxophone or every musician gets into, is flipping instruments?
Definitely not. No, definitely not. I mean, Wenzel, for example, my bandmate, he has just had the same horns. Never changes his horns. And he also never gets them repaired. It's like his tenor. I don't think he's gotten his tenor repaired in like years.
Oh,
It just doesn't break. Mine breaks every week. So
I mean, well, watching the two of you play,
yeah,
because I was there Wednesday, or Friday. You're a bit more violent,
yeah,
with your instruments.
it's true. It's true.
I don't see him jumping from
Yeah.
the stage like you do. Maybe that's a factor in the upkeep and maintenance of your horns.
Definitely. Yeah, we were looking at my 10M is off screen here, but David's like, is that bent? And I'm like, the neck is definitely bent down, but the body might be
It
too.
looks like the body has a curve to it.
Yeah, it does. That's why I retired it, because it's like a museum piece, and I should probably just not play shows with it anymore. Yeah, pass me this one. I'll show them this one. So I got this horn as a replacement. This is a 1940 Con 10M Navy Lady, and it plays just like my Sonny Stitt one, but it has lacquer on it. It's like it's basically a new horn. Like nobody really played this one, I can tell. or if they did, they didn't play it that much. So it's still super tight and like it's been recently overhauled. So this is my new this is what I'm playing on now. You know, I retired her.
Yeah, until you get your silver.
Yeah, until I get my silver. Yeah. So if you're out there watching, you have a silver Con 10M from the late 30s, early 40s. Let me know. I need that.
I mean, we have become silver addicts when it comes to saxophones.
We've become silver addicts. We have a lot of really cool silver horns in our catalog, especially that alto, that 6M.
Yeah,
is a sweetie.
I just think like seeing them, the silver seems to just hold up in such a nice way.
Oh yeah, it doesn't do all this. Like it doesn't do all that.
All the
like,
pitting and the lacquering and everything
Yeah.
else. It just like it wears nicer.
It really does.
I mean, and I don't think even back then that it was that much more expensive to get that finish.
Right.
But in retrospect, it seems like that was like the best decision someone could make in buying a saxophone.
Are there manufacturers still? That's how little I know about modern horns. Are there still silver-plated and gold-plated saxophones being made?
I saw a silver-plated Yamaha YTS 23 on Facebook.
A student model one?
A silver-plated YTS 23.
What?
Yeah, and I was like, huh. I would actually consider buying that.
Yeah. That sounds
just because,
cool.
well, it's silver. But, like...
Yeah, that's cool.
Just, bang around.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like most of the lacquer and finishes on modern horns these days are like... I don't know, they're not made out of precious metals, I feel like. It's more like... I actually don't even know what the hell they're making these things out of. But, like, the cannonball horns, that, like, black... shiny lacquer
the black
and like
lacquers.
I don't know what they're making that out of, but I'm not seeing like stippled gold with like incredible engravings and like they really used to put so much effort and I think it's just kind of a reflection of the times too, like how times have changed. Like people really used to put time and effort into quality and craftsmanship. Like this is they had pride in their products.
Well, I think, researching and looking into the vintage engravings, they were all hand engraved.
Right.
Like just that alone is ridiculous.
Right.
But then you see the artist deluxe models that you've introduced me to, and you're seeing these like landscapes of Venetian bridges or portraits of women that are not just like little line drawings, but full on. I mean, they look like high-end tattoos.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and I think they took a different level of pride in their product, whereas now everything's just coming off the factory line.
Right.
And the black lacquer. I mean, we sold a black lacquer tenor, the Yamaha tenor, and it's gorgeous, and it has the brass or the gold coming through the black lacquer.
Yep.
It's kind of badass.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when we got the new Wonder 2, whatever, transitional recently, and it's gold plated over silver, and it's the matte finish. Like some of it's shiny intentionally, some of it's matte finish, some of it's like the satin and everything. And you're like, wow, they really like treated it like jewelry.
Yes, exactly.
As opposed to a buy it on Amazon product. Yeah.
And I mean, and I think that's why so many pros still play their vintage horns, because it's a statement piece, and it's a one of one. Like a lot of these horns, especially if you get your hands on like the Chewberry we have, the transitional. I've never seen that horn ever anywhere.
Right.
I've seen Chewberries before. I've seen gold-plated ones, but I've never seen it with that matte gold. And I almost think it was like a custom job that somebody, like a custom order or something.
And the fact that you could get custom order.
Yeah.
Like that you would place an order with the manufacturer and they would go, oh, okay, we're going to do it this finish.
Right.
Or, I wonder if back then, 100 years ago, you could say and choose what engraving you wanted more than just here are the 3 that we offer, because that's how the factory line is going.
Yeah.
And some of the professionals that I wonder if some of the professionals that have these incredible instruments, whether it's for them or for their audience, that having that instrument is a makes them feel a certain way that then comes out in their music, whether or not anyone in the audience can tell or see what the horn is,
Right.
but that it's a confidence booster, it's a tying in of the history.
Totally.
Like maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, it's almost like a talisman or something.
Exactly. Like you're carrying the spirit of everyone who played it
Yeah.
before you. Even if there's like no finish in this, I mean that
Yeah.
Carl Fischer we sold that was like beat to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wonder if the person who's playing that Carl Fischer now, like that it's a confidence booster, even though this thing probably was in like dozens of bar fights.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
Exactly.
if anyone out there is listening to this and goes to our website, look up the Carl Fischer baritone saxophone. I had way too much fun writing the description, but like
Thing's
I was
awesome.
picturing this baritone saxophone quite literally in bar fights. Like what was the movie with oh goodness,
Roadhouse?
Patrick Swayze, Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Like it was in Roadhouse.
Yeah. Yeah. For
It
sure.
had to have been in Roadhouse. Like this
Yep.
thing was, yeah.
Hilarious. That was a cool horn. That was a very cool horn. The mismatched neck.
Oh God,
Yeah.
there was so much that had been done to that
Yeah.
horn, but it had lived a life.
Exactly. Yeah, man. I mean, I used to call it the spirit of the horn. Like when I got that 10M, I really did feel that connection immediately. I was like, this horn is different. It speaks differently. The response is different. The way it feels in the hands. I mean, on the old vintage horns, on the pearls, you can literally feel, if it's been played a lot, you can feel people's fingerprints, engraved into or kind of indented in the pearl. And a lot of people don't care about that, and that's fine. But I know a lot of people who do and won't play a modern horn, especially in the jazz world, because. So this is something that was interesting. The other day I was recording and my buddy was over, and I have some modern horns, and I was playing one of my modern tenors because my main axe was in the shop, of course, because it always is. And I think I had I had a 10M and then this other modern horn, which I won't mention whose modern horn it was. But, I'm playing it, and the modern horn is really like laser precise and very in tune. But my buddy was like, yeah, man, it just doesn't sound like you. I'm like, really? Like, you can really tell the difference? This guy's a rapper. You know what I mean? I'm like, you can really tell the difference? And he's like, yeah, it's like too focused sounding. I'm like, okay. So I go and play my 10M, and he's like, yeah, that's the sound, man. He's like, that's your sound. It has more glide. That's how he put it. He's like, it has more glide in between the notes. And that would make sense, I think, because the more modern horns do generally have a faster action, and you can even see it here. Like when I release that, there's all that time in between it getting to the top, so it does create like a little bit of glide. And I think, obviously, he's not just a rapper; he's a really good producer, and he listens to sounds all day long. He's into synthesis, so he would notice that kind of thing. But I never heard it put that way. I think it's pretty interesting that, like, a more vintage horn has more glide between the notes, and it gives it kind of a smoother sound almost, because it smooths the notes together, rather than on a modern horn. It's more just like, yeah, laser focused, note to note, very little glide in between.
Almost like the machining has gotten in the way of the artistry.
Yeah,
Or
right.
not the artistry, but we make artistry out of the nuances between things. Whereas like maybe in trying to be so precise, it loses that individuality, that character, because it's gotten so precise.
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I have trouble with modern horns, like doing things like overtone glissandos, or just the overtones feel so different. Like everything about it feels different. The center of the horn feels different. The center, when you talk about a center on saxophone, it's kind of like where the horn kind of reverberates best. Which part of the horn that reverberates best? And I feel like on the modern horns, it's in a place that I don't know, because I've played vintage for so long that when I go to a modern horn, obviously I can play it, but it's like it's hard to get all the nuances that I'm used to on my cons. So, I mean, I've tried switching, and that's why I just am still here. You know.
Well, no, I mean, it makes sense, but also it kind of begs the begs the question when someone is going out to buy a saxophone. You have to find a place that provides you with a wide enough range of saxophones to find the thing that matches the sound that you're looking for.
Right.
And that's something that really doesn't exist much in this day. Like
Yeah.
there are places,
Mm-hmm.
but if you are someone that lives in suburbia or exurbia or wherever the hell we
Yeah.
are, you go in, and this is not to throw our local music store under the bus,
Yeah.
but they don't have the range.
Mm-hmm.
They have X number of brand new horns.
Right.
There's no vintage, and you're going to be in such a narrow band of availability
Mm-hmm.
that you might never really find the sound that is your sound,
Totally.
which is wild. Like,
Yeah.
and everyone's kind of locked in, like you said, into these new horns that are very narrow range,
Yep.
narrow everything,
Yep.
and without experiencing the ability to go beyond that.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Totally. I mean, that's why we got to get our shop up and running.
That's true too.
That's the dream. Eventually we're gonna have a Wind and Reed shop where you can come in.
Mm-hmm.
We have a private booth. You can go in and try all the horns out. We'll have them all up on the walls. I mean, that was when I was living in New York City. That was kind of that's what got me really into vintage horns. Even before I got the Sonny Stitt horn, was I went to this dude John Baltimore's place, and he's got a ton of horns on the walls. And his shop is just covered in saxophones and clarinets and flutes, and super nice guy. And I introduced myself. He's like, "Yeah, play anything you want. Take your time."
Mm-hmm.
And I spent hours in there just trying. Oh, what's a con like? Oh, what's a Martin sound like? Like, oh, the mechanisms on this are weird, but I really like the tone. And then
Yep.
and that's how I kind of got into learning about the different brands. And if you're not in a big city, it's hard to find a place like that. I mean, if you're not in New York, basically.
Yeah.
New York's kind of the spot. I mean, London has a couple spots. LA has a couple spots, but it's hard to find. It's hard to find.
I think I didn't get to experience it nearly as much as I wanted to, and you didn't get to experience it, but like our Bring Your Own Mouthpiece event,
Mm-hmm.
where people quite literally were walking around trying every saxophone, and
Yeah.
a lot of it, I think people were realizing how different everything could play and sound.
Right.
And one of the complaints, for example, I heard on one of the Facebook groups was, I go to a saxophone event and they might have one baritone saxophone.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really a really interesting comment, because even we only have four right now,
Mm-hmm.
but even I can hear the wide range between
Yeah.
the four that we have in stock.
Right.
Like, it's huge.
Huge difference.
And if I was shopping to drop, you know, $3, $5, $10,000 for my own baritone saxophone,
Mm-hmm.
and I went in and I could only buy a YBS, 52 or whatever,
Yeah.
without realizing, oh my God, the sound of this 1935 Martin
Yeah.
that like barks at me
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
my sound.
Yes.
Or the Con 12M
Mm-hmm.
that's a bit smoother but still like big body
Yeah.
versus what's it? What does he
The
play?
Martin.
No, your Thundersmack partner.
Oh, he plays the Yamaha.
The 52.
Well, he played on the 52 a long time. Leo P. He played on the 52 a long time, and but then he got upgraded by Yamaha to I think it's the 82Z. Custom 82Z. I mean, that thing's a Ferrari.
Right,
It's
but
a
like
Ferrari.
they're all different.
All different.
And if you're dropping money, like you don't want to be, oh, here's my one choice.
Right. Yeah, for real.
You're like, I need to find the sound that speaks to the music I'm trying to create.
Definitely.
Which, yeah. And I think it also goes for confidence too.
Mm-hmm.
Like getting back to it, like seeing kids come into that event and trying horns out and be like, oh my God, I really want to play this.
Yeah.
I want this to be my horn one day when I can afford it.
Exactly.
You know, as opposed to the $800 one my parents got for me off of Amazon.
Right. Yeah, man. I mean, I would love to take that on the road.
Yes.
Our own saxophone symposium.
Load them into the Suburban.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Definitely. Yeah, man. Well, anything else you want to discuss while we're on here?
Thankfully, we're not buying saxophones at the moment.
No, we're not.
Whew.
We have a lot of saxophones.
We have a lot of saxophones. But it is interesting, like, just being in those communities and hearing people talk about which ones they're looking at.
Yep.
But also, like, the brand loyalty that they have, that people have.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's hilarious. I mean, I have it too. Con.
Well, you were wearing that Buscher shirt, the sweatshirt the other day.
That's true. Technically, it's a Sigurd Rasher shirt.
Okay.
He just happened to own all Buschers. But it's a pretty cool shirt. I should have wore that for the podcast. Next one.
It's all good.
Next one.
But yeah, it's like I said in the beginning, like when I played a baritone horn and a tuba, there wasn't this.
Right.
It was just like, here's your instrument.
For sure.
So I love, even with my daughter who's playing trombone, like it's fun seeing them when they pick up a vintage instrument as opposed to something that's brand new.
Yeah.
And when she like discovered that her instrument that hid in one of the old cases was the original mouthpiece that went with it, and her eyes lit up, and they play differently.
Yeah.
I mean, like the kids play differently when the instrument has a history.
It's so true, man. Yeah, it's like a treasure. It's like a hidden treasure. You're like, and then it feels cool. You tell people like, hey, this horn's 100 years old.
Yes.
And it sings.
Yes. Also seen the repair guy's face when I brought in the trombone.
Yeah.
He's like, what? Your daughter's playing this? I'm like, yeah, my 12-year-old. She's rocking it out.
I love that.
Yeah. And she names it. It's got...
What's his name?
Bruce.
Bruce,
because
the trombone.
He has the F attachment, so he can drop the F bomb.
Oh.
Yeah. And he's a nice bass trombone, a Holton from like the 1930s.
Nice.
Yeah. See, I lived a life, and now she has this confidence.
Yeah.
Because she's playing this like beast of a trombone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's to be encouraged.
Yeah. And I feel like when you have a vintage horn, I think people are more likely to get like a personal relationship with it, to develop a personal relationship with it, because it's one of a kind. It has a certain patina. Like this horn, it may look like other 10Ms, but I've never seen one like it, because it's the way that it's the patina is wearing off. The color, the specific year. Like not all of the 10Ms have this G sharp trill. You know what I mean? And in fact, I think this is the last year they were doing that. They switched it over to an F trill after that, to just the F trill. So little things like little eccentricities like that, I think help foster a deeper connection with the player and the instrument. Because if you just have some generic, YAS 26 or 280 or whatever they're making now, it's like, are you really gonna have a relationship with it? Probably not. If you continue playing throughout, high school and college, you're going to upgrade to a pro horn, and if you get into jazz, maybe even vintage, and I think it kind of brings me back to the thought of how much a new student horn costs.
Oh goodness.
You know what I mean? How much is it for a
Oh God, it
YTS?
was $2,900.
Insane. So, that's for and no offense,
Oh wait,
Yamaha.
no, that was a YAS. So an alto saxophone.
Yeah, that was the alto.
The new alto, is $2,900. A new tenor, I think, was $3,700
Yeah.
for the student model.
Right. And meanwhile, you could buy and also those are going to completely depreciate in value. We were just talking before we started this. We were talking about computers, how quickly computers devalue a new computer. I mean, I don't know if there are vintage computers that are worth anything. Probably, but
I've got my 2GS in my attic.
yeah, there you go. But like a YAS 23 or 26, you buy that thing, it's devaluing by half within the first year or first couple months, even. If you're playing it, or more. I mean, you can get a YAS 26 online for $300.
No, it's like with a brand new car. The moment you drive it off the dealership, it's
Right.
50%.
Whereas a 10M, for example, the prices just keep going up. So you buy a vintage horn for your child, say if they're really into it, and you're like, I want to get them a good horn. They seem like they're developing, and they need a cool horn. Why not invest in a vintage horn that's actually going to hold its value? And then say they don't like it anymore, you can sell it and make more money back.
So I got a call a while back, a few months ago, from a local business owner that found our website and was interested in buying a saxophone for their kid. And they're like, well, how do we go about this? I said, how long has your kid been playing? Well, they started, maybe this year, but I'm trying to figure out because I don't know if this rental situation makes sense or if I should buy or if I should buy new or vintage. I was like, listen, your kid's in 5th grade.
Yep.
Do the rental for a year or two. It's going to be like $40 a month or whatever it is. Do the rental for a year or two. If your kid sticks with it after 2 years, reward them. And find an inexpensive starter vintage horn that's in good shape, that plays really well, that's theirs.
Right.
That's the big thing, is that it's no longer a rental. It's theirs. They're going to take ownership. And I bet you they're going to stick with it longer because it's theirs.
Yeah, totally.
And then if they keep on going with it, upgrade. So, like, I bought my son his fancy clarinet after he'd been playing a cheap rental for 2 years. I was like, I'm going to upgrade you because you're serious.
Yeah.
You're taking this seriously.
Right.
And I want you to feel that that I see you taking it seriously. Not just I'm going to rent it for $20 a month or whatever, but I'm seeing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then when he got to high school, I was like, listen, I see that you're taking music very seriously. I think you should have the instrument that's going to keep you invested.
Yep.
And I think that's a big part of it, of not just finding the right horn with the right sound, with the right everything, but like as a parent, seeing kids move through, showing them that you're invested and that they're invested.
Yeah.
And rewarding them so that they feel that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do that without breaking the bank.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we have a 6M for sale right now for $1,100 from the 50s. That thing is sick. way better than any student horn you can get. $1,100.
Or your Perfectone for $750.
Or the Perfectone. Yeah, exactly.
I love that thing.
Well, that's the cool thing about vintage saxophones too, is you can find stencil horns that are on par with 6Ms and Martin committees for next to nothing. And I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer because I'm a vintage horn player and I've been playing it professionally. So, you know, that I think a lot of people are like, well, you know, if you become a pro, you want a reliable horn. I'm not a great example because I break horns, but like you said, I think that's just because I'm a violent saxophonist. But I know so many players who, you know, don't break their horns and their vintage horns last forever. I mean, I break modern horns too when I've gone on tour with those, so I think it's more me. But yeah, man, it's, you know, to me it's a no-brainer. It's like, why would you spend all this money on a new shiny saxophone that was made probably in Taiwan or China, which they're getting better. You know, they're getting better at saxophone production, but still, you're spending so much money on this thing that's going to lose its value, and it's not that cool. It doesn't have like a history behind it. When you could have something like the 6M, $1,100, and it's a pro horn, and you'll never need another one. And if you do want to upgrade, you can trade it or upsell it or whatever, you know. So
Yeah. And I think that's also the thing. They're pro horns.
yeah,
They're not student horns.
right.
They're pro horns.
They were made for the professionals of the time. I have this thing right here. I love this one. It says, the top stars of the music world play con saxophones. Throughout the world, con saxophones have earned a reputation among top stars, the very best in tone, performance, and dependability. Typical of the thousands of fine con saxophonists in every field of music are the great artists pictured here. And then they got, you know, these people I've never heard of. This is from the 40s. I'm like, who the hell are these guys? Butch Stone. I'm going to have to look these dudes up. Butch Stone, Bill Perkins, Alvin, Abe, Aaron.
We'll have to share that as like a Spotify playlist.
Yeah, we should. We should. Marshall Royal, Harold Feldman, Harry Carney, and William Graham. There you go. They played cons. But yeah, man. I mean, exactly. These are pro horns, and everybody played them. You know, Cannonball, Coltrane, everybody who was somebody, Parker, played on cons, Martins.
And they were built to last.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is almost a 100-year-old instrument, and it's like,
as opposed to the 15 years my refrigerator lasted before I had to replace it.
Dude, or the one that I've had to get new parts on all my kitchen appliances that I got from Lowe's this year. I've had to replace all of them.
And that's the thing, is that you can.
Yeah.
If you treat one of these correctly, a professional one.
Yep.
Like, they're made to last. They're made to say, oh, I need to replace a spring, I can replace a spring.
Right.
Replace a pad, I can replace a pad. I can take it out, I can oil it, I can clean it, and it'll keep on working.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, whereas some of the cheap made in China ones, you take it to your local repair place, and they're like, yeah, we can't do anything with it.
Not worth it. Not worth fixing.
Right. It's going to be like a $400 overhaul on a $400 saxophone.
Exactly.
Like, what's the point?
Yep.
You know, whereas you keep on bringing yours to the repair place, but they can keep on doing it.
Exactly.
You know, Jacob, my son, was searching for like the screws. We can still get the screws.
Yeah, yeah.
We can still get all the parts to keep these 100-year-old saxophones running perfectly.
Thank you, Music Medic.
Yes.
Link in bio.
I think I'm on like their. Oh, we'll have another shipment to you in another week or two.
Nice.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
That's another thing, like just the repair people alone. I mean, parents out there, if you're looking for a dependable like side hustle for your kids to make their way through college or wherever they're doing, learn how to repair saxophones.
Yeah, for real.
Get good at it.
Yep.
I mean, there's money to be made, but it's amazing how they can keep on playing as long as you treat them well.
Yeah.
And don't jump off
the
stages.
Stage. Or sweat all over them. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All those things.
Yep. Yeah, man. Well, that was a great first podcast.
We did it. We made it through our first one.
Thanks for tuning in. More to come. Wind and Reed.
windandreed.com. See it.
Peace.
Cool.
Nice, dude. We nailed that. easy and fun.